I may say to the Slavic community,
please.
We are stronger when you're with us and we're together. Don't leave Oregon. Oregon has a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to stand up for liberty, and we need those who've experienced the boot of government on their neck. As I mentioned, my fifth great-grandfather was the first judge in Oregon. I was the first circuit court judge in Oregon to get indicted for felonies, and I'm a Christian. I have a very strong faith, and so when the law changed, they can get married, but don't force me to do it. To those who really wanted to force me to do something against my will, they came and said, well, that's an ethical violation. You need to resign. And I said, no. If we're going to get back our liberty, if we're going to get back that sense of, no, we get to self-govern. The governor doesn't get to tell me what to put in my body. That's up to me. If we're going to get that back, we have to fight for it. So I looked at my state and I said, you know something, I'm going back in. I'm not going to let them take this state. It's our state. And when they begin to take it over by being bullies, it's time that Oregonians stand up and say, enough.
Yes, it's so good to have you. Do you want to read the brief bio?
Well,
to give people...
I think just because of time, I'll just have you go ahead and just introduce yourself so we wouldn't waste any time, because we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. And maybe we can reschedule at another time where you can come and share a little more.
I was enjoying the talk.
We were introducing you in,
yes.
in.
So you said half of you understood then. That's good.
Oh, that's awesome.
All good.
Circuit court judge formerly in Marion.
Yes.
So
that's amazing.
Circuit court does everything from death penalty to divorce, constitutional contracts, probate, those kind of things.
Right.
And so I did that for 7.5 years, and before that, was a lawyer for 20, a litigator. Before that, I was a carpenter. Did cabinet making. Before that, I was a news producer and a news anchor in the Middle East and Far East Asia.
Wow.
And before that, I was a janitor.
Interesting.
I love that.
So are you originally from Oregon, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sixth generation.
Born and raised?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Fifth great-grandfather was the first judge in Oregon.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you were born in Portland, right?
I was.
Correct. Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing. Wow, that's awesome.
You know, I love Oregon. It's a beautiful state. And it's got such an eclectic background. There's so many different, nationalities here that it makes Oregon fun to live in. It's not monolithic.
Right. So if you can talk a little bit about the position that you're running. Let's just start with that. Or Lily, if you have another question.
I want to know. What is position 3 for Oregon Court of Appeals?
Well, the Oregon Court of Appeals has 13 judges on it.
Okay.
It is the most powerful court, I believe, in the state.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it affects our lives every single day.
Wow.
Every single day. And what people need to know about judges on the Oregon Court of Appeals is that there are no people, as I can see, of faith on that court.
Wow.
There are no people who are constitutional conservatives on that court. And there are no people who really believe that the Constitution says what it means, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm really the diversity candidate in this election.
Yeah.
I'm running against a 19-year incumbent. Nobody's ever challenged her.
Yeah.
She just figures that this is her seat. And I keep on telling people, no, it's not her seat. The seat belongs to the people of Oregon.
Yeah.
And so now, Oregonians have a choice. And do they want to put a constitutional conservative on that court, or do they want to stick with the incumbent who believes in equity and having certain people get behind the starting line and not starting equally on the starting line? I believe in equality.
Yeah.
She believes in equity.
Right.
And they're two drastically different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really having a great time. This is my 36th county, Multnomah, and I've been here before, but I haven't done an event or a media event. So guess what? You guys just finished the 36 county race for me.
That's awesome. And after this, you're also going to another event. So this will be your second.
Wow.
This is my
amazing.
third media event today. Second, I have 2 other events tonight. So I'm doing what my ancestors did. They came to Oregon and worked hard.
Right.
And so it's important that Oregonians understand that if we're going to get back our liberty, if we're going to get back that sense of, no, we get to self-govern. The governor doesn't get to tell me what to put in my body. That's up to me. The governor doesn't get to tell me who I get to have come over for Thanksgiving. That's up to me.
Right. Yeah.
If we're going to get that back, we have to fight for it.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Oregon Court of Appeals, nonpartisan position.
Correct.
Why is it a nonpartisan position?
Well, because judges, even though I'm a Republican, I've got it tattooed on my left or right bottom, I should say. I'm naturally a conservative.
Okay.
And so, but it's nonpartisan because it doesn't lean toward any party at all, and nor should we. We need to, as judges, recognize our bias and then set that bias aside and rule on the law. See, that's the key, is what people have seen in Portland over the last several years is the rule of law beginning to break down. People are not following the law, and then the prosecutors aren't punishing people for what they do. Think about it. Ted Wheeler, lets riots happen for 110 days consistently and then doesn't prosecute anybody, as far as I can see. What message does that send?
Yeah.
It's okay to break the law, but if you're a conservative and you did the same thing, you'd have your family in the jail like that.
Right.
So the rule of law says it applies to all people at all times, in all places, in the same manner. And that's what Oregonians want. That's what I represent.
Right.
That's awesome.
Well, normally when I look at the ballots in Multnomah County, we rarely see anybody challenging an incumbent. So you're one of the few that folks are going to see on a ballot that's challenging an incumbent. So what makes you, I guess, take that stance and take that challenge? And in your opinion, I think you're going to win. What's your what gives you that passion to run for this position?
I have 3 reasons that I'm running for this position. 1, I'm tired of the elites, the government, the governor, appointing people that look just like her into these positions. The Constitution in Oregon says that each judge should be elected every 6 years. So it's supposed to be a challenge. There's supposed to be challengers.
It's usually not.
No, because a certain amount of lawyers passed a law that said the judge who's in that seat gets a special rating. It's called incumbent. And that's worth 15 to 20 points.
Yeah.
So nobody ever challenges an incumbent because they usually lose. Well, I'm a fighter. I don't like bullies. And so I'm going to fight. And so the second reason is because I really love Oregon, and I think that we're on the wrong path. We're on the path that says the people's individual choice doesn't matter. It's the group think choice. I disagree. We let individuals govern themselves. And government has a backyard, and they should stay in that backyard and not climb into my backyard and tell me what to do in my backyard. It's not their job.
Right.
And the third reason is I have a duty to discharge to those who came before me and gave me liberty, to pass on that liberty to my great-grandchildren yet unborn. And so I'm going to fight for the rest of my life to give that liberty to anybody who wants to come to Oregon, who will, so they can do and live the way that they need to live.
Right. Absolutely. So in that, I want to ask, so you said, so Court of Appeals, what kind of issues do the judges look at? What kind of cases get brought up before them? And what kind of change do you anticipate you could do with that?
Well, the Oregon Court of Appeals is what we call a non-discretionary jurisdictional court. It's a big word for if you knock on their door, they got to answer.
Okay.
They can't say, hey, we're not home. And so they have to take every appeal. So 99% of appeals go right up into the Court of Appeals. The challenge is that the Supreme Court is over the Court of Appeals. Right. And when you knock on their door, they can say, go pound sand. We're not taking your case. So they're a discretionary court. So 15 to 20% of the cases actually get to them. So 80%, 85% of the cases end at the Court of Appeals.
Wow.
Let me give you an example. A couple weeks ago, the Court of Appeals made an amazing decision that affected every Oregonian's life, and they probably don't even know about it. I won't tell you what I think about it because that case could come back before me, and I need to be, unbiased as I see it. But here's the point. It was a Lynn County jury that decided that the people of 13 counties who they said had been cheated by the Forest Service not cutting lumber and letting it process so they get these tax dollars. The jury said you get $1.1 billion with a B dollars in damages. That's a lot of damages.
That is,
So it went up to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals looked at everything and said, no, they weren't right. And they got rid of that $1.1 billion verdict for the people of Oregon.
Wow.
See how powerful that court is?
Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody hears about it.
Yeah.
So I'll probably be the dissenter in chief the guy who says, yeah, I don't agree. Here's why. But I think Oregonians need a voice on that court to talk about liberty, talk about limited government. The government isn't supposed to do everything. Tell us how to live and work and play. That's not their job.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. How can someone bring a court case before a court of appeals? Which court does it have to come from?
Well, all the cases that we see typically come from either an administrative body, like an administrative law judge, or mainly from the circuit court. I was a circuit court judge for 7 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I did everything in the trial court, and I was a trial lawyer for 20 years. So I was very experienced in bringing cases. So when a jury decides a criminal case or a civil case, eventually they get a judgment, and the judge signs the judgment, and then they have 30 days, 35 days to then appeal to the Court of Appeals. And that's where that comes from.
Okay.
So we don't do the trials at the Court of Appeals. We look at all, it's like the referee on the football field.
Yeah.
You know, oh, nope, that's a foul. Sorry, take it back 15 yards, you're done.
Yeah.
You know, yes, touchdown.
Right.
That's what we do.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, that's a great image.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you're a fighter, and you from little that I read about you, definitely had to go through a big fight just not too long ago. And I think our listeners would love to hear a little bit about, if you don't mind, sharing about what you had to go through, because I think a lot of them will find it very inspiring, the fight that you had to go through.
Well, as I mentioned, my fifth great-grandfather was the first judge in Oregon. I was the first circuit court judge in Oregon to get indicted for felonies.
Wow.
How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened was I recused myself. That means took myself out of a non-judicial duty. It wasn't part of my job to marry people. And I'm a Christian. I have a very strong faith. And so when the law changed and marriage, anybody could get married, I said, you know, they can get married, but don't force me to do it. And I did that very quietly. I didn't want to offend anybody. I have gay friends, and nobody ever asked me to marry them that were gay. But when my superiors found out about that, the government brown shirts, as I equate them to, those who really wanted to force me to do something against my will, they came and said, well, that's an ethical violation. You need to resign. And I said, no, you can go self-propagate. I ain't resigning. And so big battle ensued. It lasted about 4 years. I had about $1 million in legal fees. And it went up to the United States Supreme Court, back. The Oregon Supreme Court then suspended me. But that didn't make the Attorney General happy. So she was still so mad, in my opinion, that she then indicted me for a crime that never happened.
Wow.
And I had to fight for 2 years to force the case to go to a jury trial because I knew they didn't have any evidence.
That's the gun situation?
They said I gave a gun to a veteran in my veterans court, which never happened.
Right.
He was a felon, and I won't give you all the machinations of the story, but that was their only witness. Now, the government has a lot of money, right? And they didn't even subpoena him, give him a subpoena which forces him to go to court. Only witness, and you don't subpoena him?
Yeah.
It was just a trumped up charge. Right. It was like a Russian hoax against me.
Right.
And so we pushed it to trial, and of course their case just collapsed, and I was acquitted.
Right.
So, you know, when something happens like that in your life and you decide to push through it instead of running away, I believe there's always an upgrade at the end. And I got promoted to the president of Promise Keepers, which was an international men's ministry. And I spent 3 years traveling around the United States, even through COVID, talking to men about really what it is to be a man. So I had the most fun of anybody. And then I just built a house because I love to work with my hands. I'm a carpenter. And then during that time of building the house, I looked at my state and I said, you know something, I'm going back in. I'm not going to let them take this state. Yeah. It's my state. It's our state. And when they begin to take it over by being bullies, it's time that Oregonians stand up and say, enough.
Right. Well, you obviously are a fighter, like you said, and the Slavic community the last 2-3 years, maybe further, longer than that, they've been unfortunately just leaving the state. They've been just
do that.
They've given up. What can you tell the Slavic community? You know, is there hope for Oregon? Are things going to turn around? How do you usually answer that question? Because you're obviously you're just going on the offense. What would you tell the Slavic community? You
know, Oregon has such a great heritage of liberty. And yes, Portland, there's a lot of people in Portland who want the government to do anything for them, take care of them, rub their back, do all that kind of stuff. But the more of us that stand up and say, no, I can do it myself, thank you very much. You don't get to tell me what I'm going to educate my kids. You don't get to close my church. You don't get to tell me about how I'm going to live my life. The more of us that do that, we can get back that liberty. So to those people, and I've wanted to leave. I mean, you look at other states and you go, oh, it's probably so much easier in Boise or Montana or Colorado. It isn't. It just isn't.
Yeah, there's different battles.
Yeah, Portland will follow you there until people stand up and say, no, we're not going to have riots for 110 days. We're going to take care of this ourselves. Right. We're going to elect new prosecutors. We're going to elect new judges. We're going to elect new legislators. And we as a community who believe in liberty are going to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Together, we can change this. Separately, running away, it'll just follow you.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you look at states like Texas and others that are becoming swing states, right? And it's because it follows you. Yes, you've had maybe a good time for 2-3 years, but the other people are also moving, and guess what? They're going where you are. So I agree on that. I'm in Vancouver, and I have to say, I travel, I was just in Florida. I was like, yes, it's great and everything, but I was like, one, people are relaxed there, so it's coming, and two, I'm like, I'm just not ready to leave the battle just yet, and I want to do it for my future kids.
And COVID has stirred us up. It's really helped a lot of people understand, whoa, you just told me that I had to do this? What's that about?
Right.
And I love across this state, I've seen it everywhere, and especially in Portland, people saying, Democrats across the board, no, it's enough.
Yeah.
And when enough people do that, there's a critical nodal of change that happens, and it just flips all of a sudden. I don't know if it's this year, but I sense it is. I want it to be.
No.
Yeah.
So my race ends May 17th, less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. How do you feel?
I'd much rather be in my position than hers, because she's hiding in the basement, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And I see such mobilization and motivation in the voters, and the more they hear about a judge who's running for their values and their liberty, and that I will seek to protect them, the more people say, wow, I didn't know a judge would ever campaign. You sound like a reasonable person.
Yeah.
And so I'm very encouraged. I think if the voters show up and mark Vance Day for Court of Appeals, I will win.
Right. And I know Lily has to go here in just a second. I'll let her ask maybe a last question before she has to run.
No, I just want to say, thanks for stepping up. I think it's so encouraging. And I think for our community, some of the things you shared, like the impact that courts have on our daily life is truly unnoticed. Like we go day by day and we don't seem to notice how much of the decisions that people get to make at the court levels, and then we forget these people we can actually contribute to who sits on that bench.
Yeah, you can vote.
Yeah, exactly. So amazing. So thank you
you have a
so
choice
much.
this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not.
Usually you don't, and that frustrates people.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Well, I always have folks ask me who do we vote for, and obviously we can't tell as a nonprofit organization, but the people ask all the time. There's only one incumbent, and they know that most likely they're appointed by the K. Brown or the judge, the current governor, and they feel like they're hopeless. There's no good options. And it's good to see an excellent option, and we're excited. And obviously, like I said, our organization can't tell you who to vote for, who to vote for to our community, but we can talk to folks about some of the good candidates that are running and where they stand, and that's something that we've been doing for the last 3 years.
On those issues that are so important to the Slavic community.
And
majority
and that's
of them,
how we view it.
Yeah, majority of them came as Christian refugees 20, 30 years ago, and like I said, a lot of them are fleeing the state, but a lot of them are also fighting back because they have their families here, they have businesses here, and they want to finally do something.
If I may say to the Slavic community,
please,
we are stronger when you're with us and we're together. Don't leave Oregon.
Yes.
Oregon has a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to stand up for liberty, and we need those who've experienced the boot of government on their neck. Without that experience, people forget that when government gets too big and begins to bully people, like it did to your community, that's why they're refugees. Right. Refugees are the most amazing citizens because they know the good and the bad of government. And they can tell people about when government gets too big, or they start taking your property or telling you what to do or restricting you from your faith, that's a sign that communism, socialism is coming, and we need to stand against it.
Right. Right. Well, one thing that obviously we've all seen in the last few years just been completely crazy is the critical race theory. Mm-hmm. And I've always heard that it's this legal theory. How do you describe critical race theory, and what should the community look for if they don't aware of this this new thing that came out? Is it even a new thing?
Yeah.
How long has it been around?
Well, critical race theory, in my opinion, having read and studied, is really just a repackaging of Marxism. And Marxism is based on the theory of really two different forms of laws, two different value systems: the laws for the elites and the laws for the masses. And of course, who loses in that one? The masses, because it's rule. The elites say it's rules for thee, but not for me. I get to do what I darn well please, but you got to obey. And so, in a legal system, you have to have equality. So the scales are evenly tipped. You start at the starting line with everybody else. And Lady Justice, as we say, has a blindfold over her eyes. So she doesn't, it's just what's the evidence and what's the law. Critical race theory recognizes, and I think appropriately so, that there are some groups in our community who have been held back over the years because of their nationality, their skin color, whatever that experience was. And that was real. And we ought to recognize that. But you can't then tip the scales of justice and say, well, because your ancestors were, treated badly years ago, we're going to put you at the head of the line, in fact, 50 yards ahead on the racetrack. And these people, who their ancestors might have been oppressors, maybe not, they start way back on the line. And so it's lifting up one group because they were oppressed and pushing down another because their ancestors may have been oppressors. That's not what we can do in a republic. You can never do that in a justice system. The law has to apply, again, to all people, at all times, in all places, in the same manner. It shouldn't matter what your color of your skin is. You shouldn't get treated differently in the court, either worse or better, because of your skin color or your experience.
Right.
So critical race theory, when it's applied to the judicial system, will destroy the judicial system because it's based on the foundation of equality, not equity.
Right. Well, one thing so last week we had one of our board members with us, and he made a great point. He doesn't understand, and I agree with him. The whole point of the United States or America, Oregon, whatever, is a place where it's racist. We hear this all the time that America is racist, and we came here. We came here with a few bags from the former Soviet Union, and if we know that if we put effort into it, we put a little bit of effort, and we give all we can thrive, and it's just a matter of time.
Look at where we are.
Exactly.
In a studio that's beautiful.
Exactly.
And you're speaking to thousands of people.
Exactly. And it takes just a little bit of time, takes a little bit of dedication, and you can be successful in the United States. It's an equal area, equal place, equal country like no other. And that's why millions of people are fleeing. That's why there's so many of our brothers from Ukraine are coming here, because they know this is the best place to be.
And we should welcome them.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. Because you're white, just the fact that you're white, you get pushed back from the starting line because those who are not white are saying we were oppressed and the white people did it to us. Well, you just, you weren't one of those people.
Exactly.
I mean, my family's been here since 1623.
Right.
So yeah, maybe a few of them were.
Right.
But here's somebody who comes to the country and you have no dog in that fight. You didn't do a darn thing, and yet you're punished.
Well, I would argue even our families, my grandparents, my grand-grandparents, we were persecuted. We lost everything. They didn't have anything. They were, their families, the properties were burned down, or they had to flee where they were from. So they had to restart multiple times, and still coming back here, leaving everything or as much as they could. We still came here and we still made it work. So the way we see it, it's more about effort. We see it
exactly.
You put a little bit of effort.
Equality
and
of position, starting point, allows people who want to fight or to put effort into the process to be successful.
Yeah.
And nobody, let me make myself clear, nobody should be held back because of their nationality, their skin color, their race, anything like that. Because God Almighty made each one of us in His image. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. I'm not colorblind. I love colors.
Right.
And God made a bunch of colors. And we ought to recognize those colors, celebrate those colors, but never punish any of the colors. Yeah. So because of the image of God in us, every person deserves dignity and respect.
Right. Right.
When I sentenced a fellow to death as a circuit court judge because what he had done, I still did it with dignity, treating him with dignity and respect, even though he had killed somebody. It was a very heinous murder, 3 people. So I needed to sentence him to death. But he's still a human being who deserves respect.
Right. For sure. Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time is cutting close and we're out of time. So perhaps maybe in the future, if you have some time, we'd love to have you back on the program so you can share a little bit more about hopefully at that point you'll be already in your position and you can share a little bit of what's
I'd love
going
to
on.
come back.
Yes.
That would be fun.
But before we go, I know that you have probably a website. You have where folks can go and learn a little more about you, where they can hopefully financially support you. And that's one thing that I thought was interesting that you can't really talk about that.
No, I can't ask for money at any point in time. But you can go to www.teamvanceday.org. That's Team Vance Day, VANCEDAY.org. Just one long word, teamvanceday.org. And there's ways to volunteer, make an endorsement, donate, whatever you'd like to do. Right. We're just grateful that Oregonians are getting engaged, because when Oregonians get engaged, things change.
Right. Well, the last few years when we've been doing this voter guide, it's been very sad to see just not very good options for judges. So I know for myself and the community, they're excited to see someone who is a fighter, who stands with the values of the Slavic community. And there's, like we talked about before you came on, we talked about the election that's coming up. May 17th is the day when the primaries is happening. Obviously, it's not the general election, but yours and amongst other elections, it will be the last day of your campaign. So if folks are wanting to contribute in any way, you can go on Vance's website and look at how they can help. And also make sure you turn in your ballot on time. Make sure you don't mail it after, I believe, next Wednesday or next Thursday. They can't mail it anymore. So you want to make sure you drop it off at the ballot box. I'll just let you say the last few words before we close. It would normally get shut down by now, but I think the team is nobody's in studio today, so we can just. I think we can talk forever. But I know you have to go. I have to go. So we'll just have you finish with the last few words.
Well, let me say to you folks out there, Oregon really needs you. Again, you've gone through a lot. You experienced the persecution that so many of us never did, and therefore your voice is critical because you understand the value of liberty. And if people don't understand the value of liberty, they hold it cheaply. They'll discard it. They'll give it away, and they don't even know they're giving it away. But your strength is that you got strong through the persecution. And when you bring that to a community like Oregon, it makes us all stronger. So fight for liberty, vote, stay in the state, and help us take this state back.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. You're on your way to another event? Is that correct?
I am.
And that's the Executive Club, is that
correct? The Executive Club over at the airport, and then I'll do another media event right after that.
Wow.
Yep.
So a busy day.
Yep.
Busy days.
Every day. Fighting this hard.
It's only going to get busier till May 17th.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again. Thank you for coming. Hopefully the traffic is better on your way to the next.
It's terrible coming up.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it was very unusual driving up here because usually it's 30 minutes. It took me an hour. So from just downtown Portland. So thank you again very much. We'll look forward to
I'll be back. I really love to do that.
We appreciate it. And I would love to talk to you more about the Promise Keepers because I've heard about it on Dr. Dobson's show before, and it sounds like an excellent place where I think our community should know more about it because I don't think they know too much. I want to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors for allowing us to be here on this program and all of our future programs. Some of those sponsors are Pilmeni, Nina Martinov, a real estate broker, America's Best Realty, Exceptional Homes, Dream House Construction, Imperial Cabinets, Solution 8020, Gold Cup Coffee House, Red Hills Construction, Ciberoni, Lanos Floral, Third House Media, and some others. Without these companies, without these organizations, we couldn't be on this program. And if you would like to be our next sponsor, reach out to us by visiting SlavicVote.org. We would love to partner with you and further our mission. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to Slavic Vote Live. We really appreciate you listening to this program. Don't forget to click that like button, subscribe, and share this program with your friends and family. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Кандидаты, стремления. Новая программа Slavic Vote Live. Каждую неделю в прямом эфире. Slavic Vote Live дает голос славянской общине по всему северо-западу. Мы говорим и информируем о важном Вашингтоне, Орегоне, Калифорнии.